We stay with the unrest that is unfolding on the streets of two provinces thus far. That's Gauteng and the Kwazulu-Natal province, on the back of the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma. The unrest happening in the name of the calls to free the former President Jacob Zuma. Let's speak now to spokesperson of the governing party, the ANC, Pule Mabe. Mr. Mabe, thank you very much for your time. 6 people arrested thus far. Rather 6 people sadly have died thus far. My apologies for that. And then you also have more than 200 that have been arrested. In your view, how does the ANC characterize what is happening on the ground in these two provinces?
Morning, Toli, and morning to your viewers. Of course, we are concerned and saddened by those that had lost their lives. We are also concerned because the activities that we have seen unfolding over the past few days have got characteristics of criminality in them. People taking advantage of the situation and going out to loot shops and wanting to make that legitimate. There is no way. I mean, if you loot a shop, if you destroy public property, how are you then registering a legitimate concern by doing so? Because these businesses that you are looting from are businesses that provide jobs to many others, the African working class. So an economic blockade that we are seeing happening in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng can never be attributed to the incarceration of former President Jacob Zuma. They are criminal elements taking advantage of the situation, and then that's why, I mean, these people can't even be, we have desisted any statement that's sought to say these are ANC members. These are not the ANC members. These are people who are organizing themselves. They need to be unmasked. We need to know exactly what is the motive behind this, so that if there are criminal elements who are using concerns of others to try and drive their own motives, the police, law enforcement agencies should be able to act against those.
Mr. Mabe, the ANC, should it not adjourn the meeting that has been ongoing since Friday and the leadership starts showing face on the ground, being visible, and talk to community members about them stopping what is happening and what essentially is happening in the name of its former president?
Well, of course, I mean, I can tell you now, Toli, I mean, we had adjourned the meeting yesterday. We are just continuing today. We had adjourned the meeting yesterday to do exactly what you are talking about. Comrades have been on the ground engaging the different communities. And that's why we know that it is not ANC structures that are involved in acts we are seeing, destruction of property and all of that. You know, so there are criminal elements that are involved. This is an issue that requires law enforcement agencies to act swiftly and with speed.
Mr. Mabe, it's not ANC members that are carrying out this looting. What you're saying are characteristics of criminality. It's full-on criminality. Let's be clear about it. The president called it that yesterday. The issue here, Mr. Mabe, is that the ANC describes itself as a leader of society. So you can't only say that the ANC must come out and address its members if they are unhappy about something. These are members of society who are doing this, and it's quite clear, Pule Mabe, right now what's happening, and that is that there is a huge element of poverty that follows this, or that is the reason for what is going on. People are hungry. Mr. Mabe, are you still there? All right, Pule Mabe, and that particular line, I'm not sure whether it has dropped, but it does appear that Pule Mabe has indeed somewhat dropped the line. We hopefully are going to reconnect with him. Not sure what happened there. These are live visuals. If you're just joining us, these are live visuals from one of the townships here in Gauteng. My understanding is that this could be in Vosloorus. The situation there, again, resembling exactly what Pule Mabe and I were talking about. Mr. Mabe, I'm told that we have re-established the line to you. I'm saying to you that the ANC says that it is the leader of society. So, yes, as much as you're trying to distance the ANC from this, the bottom line is that you lead this country. You have characterized yourselves or described yourselves many a times as leaders of society. Stop the meeting and go and engage people on the ground is what I say.
Well, we have already had those engagements are ongoing. Remember, the ANC. Can I just clarify myself?
Sure.
Because remember that the ANC is not only led by the 86 of us in the National Executive Committee, including ex-officio members. The ANC has got provincial executive committees, has got regional executive committees, has got the branch executive committee. So we've got structures of the African National Congress at a national level, in provinces, in regions, and up to a branch level. So all of our cadres have been given a clear line to be able to intervene and understand what these concerns that are being raised are, and also be able to dissect if there are those of a criminal nature, and then make sure that law enforcement agencies act in that way. We've already issued a statement of the ANC. One, we called for calm. We've been talking about this throughout this past weekend, because the ANC will never renege from its role of leading society. We understand that, even if we know that it is not ANC members who are involved, that does not mean that because of that we will not be able to engage. We engage even in the most difficult terrain, because we understand we are a self-respecting movement. We understand the role that we're expected to play in society and the leadership that is expected from us by the rest and the entirety of society. So we've never reneged on that, Tony. I can tell you now, in Kwazulu-Natal, structures of the ANC have been meeting, attending to the situation. Here in Gauteng, structures of the African National Congress have been meeting, talking to alliance partners, attending to the situation. The leadership of the National Executive Committee, as it is now in a meeting, it is also seized with the very same matters, because the stability of our communities is a matter that concerns the African National Congress at all times, because we stand for peace, we stand for non-violence, and we'll do everything else we can to make sure that our communities are stable. Where there are criminal elements taking advantage of legitimate concerns that might be raised by people in various quarters, we need law enforcement agencies to act against those. Because the ANC can only persuade people to conduct and behave themselves in a certain way. But law enforcement agencies ought to be seen acting against criminal elements that undermine and take advantage of concerns of our communities and do the things that are not wanted. I mean, if you destroy property, if you loot from the shops, you are really dealing with the jobs of our very people, the African working class. Why we can't allow that to happen?
Let me understand this, Mr. Mabe, and I'm going to quote directly from what the President said last night in his characterization of what is happening on the ground. And I quote now, "It is a matter of concern to all South Africans that some of these acts of violence are based on ethnic mobilization." What did the President mean?
Well, in our own National Executive Committee, at some point, we have dealt with what we would have described as ethno-nationalism. That in whatever else happens, we should never allow ethno-nationalism to find credence. So we must nip it in the bud wherever it raises its head, because we want the people, the entirety of the people of South Africa, to know that they belong to the whole country. Doesn't matter whether you're Zulu, whether you're Pedi, whether you're Xhosa, whether you're Tonga. You must know that this country belongs to all who live in it. And this is what has been clearly expressed even in the Freedom Charter. I mean,
what led to this?
The ANC always stood for a country that will be for all.
Where did this observation come from? As a result of what exactly? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'd like you to describe it as the ANC and its president sees this.
Well, I mean, you would have seen on the many videos that went viral on social media. There are people who were clearly saying that no, I mean, we Zulus are angered by this arrest. We can't have such statements being made in a democratic country like ours. This is not what Nelson Mandela and his generation fought for. We fought for a country that must belong to the rest of South Africa's people. We've abolished Bantustan in this country. I mean, in the past, when you stayed in Venda, when you stayed in the Transkei, you would have had your own passport. We dealt with those, so we dealt with internal boundaries in the Republic of South Africa. It cannot be that such statements are being made now in 2021. What are we saying to the younger generation? Everyone must understand that we're a democratic country, that there is freedom of movement, that there is freedom of choice, that there is freedom of association. All of these are written in the Bill of Rights. The reason why we fought for the constitution that we have was to make sure that we deal with all of those ethnic chauvinism and all of that. The people of South Africa must know that the laws of the Republic are not only designed for a certain tribe, they are designed to be able to regulate all of us as humanity in the Republic of South Africa.
Mr. Mabe, when can the South African public expect to see the president come out of that meeting, address this situation head on? When can the people of KwaZulu-Natal expect to see their premier of the province, Sihle Zikalala, on the ground addressing this matter? Those two leaders, I suspect, that is who South Africans, at least the ones who are not committing these acts, want to see when they talk about decisive and visible leadership.
Well, Tony, I do not know which ground you are talking about, because the president spoke about this yesterday.
The criticism, Pule Mabe,
can I just
the criticism, you're going to conclude your point in a moment. The criticism here, Pule Mabe, is that some people, and in particular the EFF, which has issued a statement, are saying the president cannot run the country through a TV screen.
So what is the expectation there? What is the expectation? If there are 10 protests, one happening in Palabora, another one happening in Guyane, another one happening in Kwamashu, another one happening in Guguletu. So the president must be in Palabora, Guyane, Guguletu, Zingin, Venda. All of those areas.
It's got to be at least in one of those locations.
Can I just make a point, Tony?
Please continue.
The reason why we make ourselves available to these important platforms of mass media, like yourselves, 405, Newzroom Afrika, is because you have created the space for us to be able to communicate with our people, to reassure society. So media plays a very critical role as it comes to the dissemination of message and being able to assure our people that we are acting on this. Just over this weekend, the presidency had issued a statement commending law enforcement agencies on the work that they were doing after over 20 people were apprehended for their own actions. You just reported before we started this interview that 200 or so have also been apprehended. Sadly, 6 people have lost their lives in all of these violent activities. Now, we are monitoring the situation ourselves, and we have been calling on law enforcement agencies to be able to act. I mean, the ANC can go to the ground, talk to people and all of that. But remember, the ANC does not effect arrest.
The
when
ANC, indeed,
doing all of these activities, the law enforcement agencies need to be seen taking the necessary action. We must assure our people that we are acting against some of these actions.
Mr. Mabe, what would the ANC's advice be to its deployees in government? Because that's the language you employ here. What would the ANC suggest to President Cyril Ramaphosa in that NEC meeting that is ongoing right now about the possible deployment of the army on the streets? Because as things stand, it does appear that police are overwhelmed.
Well, the ANC's message to its deployees has been very clear. They must do everything well within their power to make sure that, 1, they protect innocent lives, 2, they protect, they deal with the destruction of public property decisively. They also go out to make sure that criminal elements involved in these activities are apprehended. We must assure our community. So our people must be given the necessary confidence they need
Mr.
in all of these institutions of state.
Mr. Mabe, let me tell you that right now, as I speak to you, we're running a breaking news ticker that says the rand has been knocked by the ongoing unrest. So what confidence are you talking about when you say the ANC government must act in a manner that inspires confidence? Right now, people are not sure how safe the streets are just to walk on them. How much more the economic aspect of things, the looting that you have seen happening. In KZN, the MEC speaking about upwards of 100 million rand of damage, and that's a conservative estimate. All I'm saying to you is that right now, the ANC government is not inspiring confidence that they are or they have a handle on the situation. Briefly for me.
Toli, I can tell you now that we have sent a clear message to our employees. We're quite concerned about the situation, which is not necessarily of the making of the African National Congress. We wouldn't want the market losing confidence, especially our import and export trade. If you deal with our own port of entry out in Kwazulu-Natal, what are you doing? That's a serious economic blockade which concerns the African National Congress. And we're not going to say, because there's a knock-on effect on the rand, on our own currency, we are therefore not going to take action. We must take action to be able to make sure that we bring back the levels of confidence both in the market and in the communities that we have said we're going to be leading.
Mr. Mabe, thank you very much for your time.